Greetings, people of Earth. This is Rick Richards, and you are watching COVID Chronicles 21. Is it 21? It's the evening of March 29th, 2020. And you may say to yourself, wow, this guy is already handsome, and now he's really taking it up a notch. Well, yes, I am. We have a special guest tonight. We have Angela Brown, all the way from New York. So that's an exciting feature of the show. I have coffee. Well, it's not sure. There we go. From A&W. I am going to pound my nootropics from our show sponsor, Athletic Alliance Advanced Nootropics. I pound 4 of these every time I do a broadcast. Didn't do it this morning, though. And our producer, Dave Darnley, gave me shit for it. Today, I will do it. I will do it, and I will run the commercial. I promise. So let's get this. Oh, man. These are tough times. You really have to stay mentally sharp. All right, let's go. So, we're going to have a quick word from our sponsor, Athletic Alliance, and then I'm going to be back with the shout-outs and the updates. All right, that is Athletic Alliance Advanced Nootropic. You can get it. You can get it right across North America, all of North America at GNC. And if you don't want to venture out into a store, GNC actually does have curbside service, but you can order it online at gnc.com. You can order it at svn.com and athleticalliance.net. Okay, so time for some shout-outs. Jixer, Terry McLean, good old Terry. Faithful and frequent commenter. Grace, Ivan from Sector B49, Vanessa, of course, Diana, of course, Kushi, of course, Dwayne, Charlene, Rick and Sandy, Rick and Rhonda and Sandy, Kim, Tanya, Charlene, Chad, Lori, Tammy, Long Duck Dong, and of course, our producer, Dave Darnley. Producer extraordinaire, Dave Darnley. I will not forget you, Dave. Dave is a good producer. Dave's got some big guests lined up for us later this week. So before we bring Angie in, I am going to take a quick look at the current situation, starting with Canada this time. So in Canada, we are looking at 6,277 confirmed cases, which has resulted in 63 deaths. Nearly 500 people have recovered. And interestingly enough, they're using plasma from the blood of people who have recovered as a form of antidote, which is really bizarre when you think about it, isn't it? You know, Angie, you can unmute now if you want. Go ahead. We can banter about a little bit while we're going through this.
Okay. Hello.
Hey, I was just saying I heard this in the U.S. actually that they're using the plasma from people that have recovered from this. They're taking the blood and taking the plasma out of the blood and using that as an antidote. Doesn't that sound strange?
No. Well, I mean, it does sound strange that if not much testing has been done on it, but if they've already figured out that certain people have a better chance at not getting it and they have better antibodies, then why not use the plasma?
I don't know. To me, that it kind of sounds like a horror movie or something, right? Like some kind of zombie movie. If you take an injection from the zombie and it'll keep you from. I actually think I saw that. I saw that with vampires in a movie called 28 Days of Night. And what this guy did is he drew some blood from a vampire, injected it in himself, so that he would be like a semi-vampire. Anyways, that's weird. Let's not go down that rabbit hole. So globally,
who knows what we'll have to do to survive here?
Yeah, well, it may come to that, right? It may come to a zombie apocalypse. I guess we'll see. Globally, we're looking at 720,000 cases, 658 Deaths, 33,926. 150,000 recovered. And let's see where this has been the most deadly. So Spain is still running kind of high numbers. Their total is set to double in 6 days at its current pace. Italy is slowing down a bit. I mean, the number of new deaths is quite high still in Italy, but as a percentage of total deaths, it's actually shrinking. So yeah, I've gotten some shit for this, but it does look like it might be leveling out a little bit. The U.S., Donald Trump promised he would make you number one.
He did.
He said he was going to put America first. And sadly, in at least total cases, America is first. Although, if you want to take heart, the death rate is comparatively low. I mean, 2,400, that's equal to France, and France has almost a quarter of the confirmed cases. But again, the confirmed cases, that varies quite a bit in regards to how much testing is actually being done. So the UK, and as I have said, some of these countries that didn't get their first case until later in February, Netherlands, Turkey, yeah, those sort of places we should watch. Let's take a closer look at the US. Let's dive down into Angie's home state there, New York. 60,000 cases in New York. Holy shit.
You want to hear about the city only?
Yeah. Okay. Well, you know what? Let me stop. New York is obviously bad. 1,000 total deaths, 82 one. So yeah, what can you tell us? Tell us about the situation there now.
Well, the latest update for the actual New York City toll is that there's 33,768 confirmed cases here and 678 deaths, and that's just in New York City.
That's just the city.
Yeah.
Wow. So so when did we talk to you last? It was over a week ago, right?
Not over a week ago. I'd say approximately a week ago. Yeah.
Okay, about a week ago, and if I remember correctly, at that time you guys had sort of just started this quarantine. The restaurant that you worked at had closed, and you were sort of getting used to this restriction on your movement, right?
Yeah.
And has anything changed since then, or is it still kind of the same?
The only things things have changed, I'd say that the security at the stores has slowly gotten better. When I had talked to you, it was only literally the first or second day that people were actually starting to practice social distancing, and that was just a week ago. And I haven't been out today, but I went out yesterday, and I was glad to see that finally my local supermarket finally started limiting the amount of people, because 3 days ago they weren't limiting the amount of people. They were just letting anybody go in there. And I was
They just started this 3 days ago?
Yes.
Oh.
Somebody almost shoulder checked me in Food Town, and I was like, never mind social distancing. So, but yesterday when I went in, they were limiting the amount of people going in finally, and also finally, they put up a plexiglass barricade in front of the cashiers with a square in the middle for exchanges. So these people have been working on the front lines with absolutely no protection up until just a couple days.
I mean, that's almost exactly the same as it is here. Like, all of these plastic barricades have kind of gone up almost overnight, right?
Yeah.
And there's one company that's going to be doing well, for all the bankruptcies that are coming. Whoever's installing plexiglass is going to be doing very well, I think.
I hear the alcohol and wine stores are busier than Christmas.
Yeah, and you know what's interesting? Those have been dubbed essential services.
Yeah, I don't understand the alcohol, but I mean, I guess for the comfort of all the alcoholics out there. But yeah. The other thing that is interesting is, today my roommate and I got to listen to whether or not New York was going to be shut down. The tri-state area is going to be shut down for the rest of everyone else. And thank God they're not. Thank God they just imposed some more restrictions, but they're not actually forcibly going to be separating us from everybody else. So that's good.
Yeah,
but when it came to...
Not yet.
Not yet. But it was, what was super scary was at the end there. Dr. Burke, the spokeswoman, she was not answering questions accurately. The questions were so off base that it seemed like she was answering from a script and afraid to lose her job.
Oh, okay. That's a little
Yeah.
disturbing. So has life changed? Like, I mentioned before that, you know what? I mean, with this situation, I constantly feel like I'm completely overreacting or completely underreacting. Did you ever get that feeling as well?
Yes. So, I mean, I feel like I'm overreacting and not going outside just because right now it is, uh, I mean, finally people are staying indoors. So you would think that you can go out and wander around and not run into anybody that's going to give you anything. But also crime is up in this neighborhood. And I downloaded
Really?
Citizen. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think my food town just got robbed earlier today, which is just one block away from me, like right there. There's multiple incidences of people with guns and knives in my neighborhood all of a sudden. According to my roommates, it's always like this, but I really don't think it's as bad because they just downloaded this app a couple months ago as well. So,
Well, this
so I'm super
so
concerned about crime.
is the crime, is it is it people taking advantage of the situation, or is it people just getting desperate, or people that didn't load up, or what do you think? What's
It's
the nature
just
of
a
that?
lot of random people out on the street brandishing knives and guns and trying to kick in. There's doors that have been kicked in, domestic disputes as you would expect. But today was the first commercial robbing I've seen in my neighborhood. But it's just a lot of people brandishing knives and guns out in the street being reported,
Hmm.
and some muggings.
Muggings, yeah. Well, it's interesting. This morning's show. I don't know if you watched this morning's show. I hope you did because I gave you a shout out.
That's the only one I haven't seen yet.
Oh, of course, of course. Anyways, I talked about the breakdown in social order, and I think
Yeah,
this is the phase that I think we're moving into next is civil unrest and social unrest, right?
yeah,
Because I mean, there's a lot of things that are going to drive it. I mean, some people are just going stir crazy. I'm one
yeah.
of them. Um,
Hmm.
there's a lot of inequality. There's a lot of wealth inequality. There's corruption. There's a lack of trust with the government. As a matter of
Yeah.
fact, I'm going to show you something. This just came out today. Steve Mnuchin. Now, do you know who Steve Mnuchin is?
Yes.
Okay. Steve Mnuchin is a member of the Trump administration, and he is get lost. Steve Mnuchin actually is worth about $300 million, right?
Yeah.
Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin. He said that he expects Americans to be able to survive for 2.5 months on $1,200, which is $17 per day.
That
So,
doesn't include anything other than basic necessities so that you don't die and don't maybe have your heat turned off or your water turned off or
well, yeah, I
anyways, yeah.
mean,
You
so
know.
the guy with $300 million says all of you should be just fine on $17 a day.
That's ridiculous.
But I mean, I guess I
Like
guess that depends on whether you consider luxuries, like a roof over your head and eating once a day and stuff like that, right?
exactly.
So, in an interview with CBS's Face the Nation, host Margaret Brennan noted that the $1,200 relief checks that many Americans will be getting would not be enough in some parts of the country. I think the entire package provides economic relief overall for about 10 weeks, Mnuchin explained. Hopefully, we'll kill this virus quicker. Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen.
Also, I'm pretty sure that relief package is only going to people that did their taxes last year. So if you haven't done your taxes, you're not getting anything.
Oh, wow. Okay. So now, has there been anything from banks? Like, I mean, in the next couple days, rents and mortgages are all coming out, right? And
Yeah.
initially, like early on, banks had said that they were going to defer mortgages, and landlords and rents. Like, have you guys heard anything about this?
Um, as far as I know, we still have to pay our rents. Nothing has passed. People are emailing petitions around so that we can all sign it so that we can get help with our rent or not have to pay our rent right away. But no, nothing's been confirmed on that.
Okay, well, I would think this actually could be a tipping point for social unrest, right? Because I can't imagine. I'd like to know who's going to go around evicting people in this situation, right?
There's plenty of assholes here.
Is
I
there?
mean, I feel really bad right now. I have a friend that is possibly going to have to move back to Texas because right before this happened, she was working for somebody crooked and they weren't giving her checks, and now she's been unable to get on unemployment, and it's very real. She hasn't received any money for a month, I'm sure, at least. So
Well, to be honest, I mean, Texas might be a better opportunity, right?
maybe
So here's a
for
story
her.
actually from your very own New York Post that I just saw today.
Huh.
Black Americans are moving to Africa. So this is how bad it's gotten. It's gotten so bad now in New York that people are saying, you know what? Africa's looking pretty good. I think Africa might be the place for us. So, I mean, this is just a story of Monique John. She wasn't sure what to expect when she stepped off the plane in her new home, the West African nation of Liberia. The Brooklyn born 28-year-old recalled her first glimpse of the capital, Monrovia, nearly 3 years ago. So, this is a few years ago, right? The story just came
Mhm.
out today, though. But the feeling was I was walking along city streets was a sense of excitement. And now, apparently, in the current situation, there's more and more inquiries into leaving the United States, African Americans looking to leave the United States and move to Africa.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of people that are not so excited about the state of the United States, especially with Trump in power. And if he does get elected again, who knows? Maybe there will be a mass exodus of African Americans to Africa. But as far as I know, that system's pretty corrupt.
Well,
So I'm not
what
sure
about
how
just
it's going to be
people?
better.
What about people in general? There, like, are there? I mean, you have a big cross section of people. Like, some are from other countries, some are just from other states. Other than your friend who has to move back to Texas, do people want to leave New York? Like, is there? Why do you think this has gotten
Yes.
so bad in New York?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and I'm one of those people, as you know, I'm wanting to move to the West Coast, but um, and also just because I'm older, and this city is a very young demographic, and I don't need to party. I don't need to spend all my money out all the time anymore. I'd much rather go for a hike in nature these days. But a lot of people, New York is just too expensive now for people to live in, and you can live here. There are lots of people that can live here, but you're basically just paying for your rent, your food, your transportation. My
Right.
roommate and I were having a discussion just the other day about how I haven't bought clothes in forever.
Huh. And these are just general sort of the state of living. But I mean, what's interesting about
Yeah,
that though is it's kind of a marginal existence for a lot of people, right? Like, I mean, probably a lot of people, I would guess, in New York are sort of just making it above the surface in terms of meeting their bills, enjoying a reasonable lifestyle, that sort of thing, and they really can't take a shock to the system like this. Is that fair to say?
right. Yeah, I know. I mean, taking this is definitely putting everybody on edge. It's a well-known fact that we're all 2 weeks away from being homeless, a one paycheck away from being homeless, or two paychecks. And definitely my money's running out. And I did apply for unemployment because I am a server right now. And I mean, that's going to take a while. I'm going to be at zero by the time those start coming in. And I've been very frugal. The only thing I'm spending my money on is food, literally. Uh, but yeah, it's really hard to survive here. It's not as creative as it used to be. There's not as many opportunities unless you have money. And yeah, you got to be a rich kid to enjoy the city.
What was the process like? The applying for unemployment, was it difficult? Was it time consuming?
It's very difficult. And I got in on the second day, and I don't know how I did the second day of trying, but there's some people I know that tried for a week. I know some people that still haven't gotten through, and they've been trying for over a week. And the system is so overloaded that they had people with certain last names call on certain days. So I'm only allowed to call on a Monday. I'm only allowed to file on a Monday because my last name starts with B.
Right.
But it's definitely, the system is overwhelmed. Um, yeah, we'll see when I start getting some money. We'll see.
Yeah.
The hospital system is what I'm more concerned about here, actually.
Well, yeah. I mean, you're pretty healthy, so I mean, if although we are hearing that more and more people that are actually overall healthy and don't have underlying medical conditions are succumbing to this virus as well. But for the most part, healthier people seem to weather the storm pretty well, right?
Yeah, I just read a statistic earlier today that 3 out of 4 people under the age of 45 survived COVID. Or sorry, 3 out of 4 people that died from COVID under the age of 45 had pre-existing conditions. So there's still the 1 out of 4 that is dying from COVID with no pre-existing conditions.
Oh, that's not bad. 75% chance you'll make it, right?
Yeah.
That's not bad, right?
Great.
There you go. Come on, look on the bright side. So what are your days consist of now? Like, what's an average day like for you now?
For me, I guess the average day is I'll get up, I'll look at my phone, I'll look at the latest stats, I'll make a coffee, I'll do some yoga, I'll do some exercise, and then shower. And if it's a nice day right now, I'll go outside and I'll get a bike ride in. If not, I'll just get straight to whatever it is I need to do. I'm trying to not fixate on the news because I'll just get sucked into that and not do anything. But I'm trying to set time aside to work on some design work and yeah. So basically that. So I go through phases of fixating on the news. Like I just can't be there all the time. But it's definitely I'm getting a lot more sleep than ever.
It's an upside to everything, right?
Yeah.
And like I've said, the our gray-haired old daddy, that he's that hardcore gambler. I mean, this has been good for him, right? He hasn't been able to get into the
Yeah, you
casinos.
got to keep him in check there.
Yeah, no, the casinos are all shut down, and so he's saving a fortune. It's made him really grouchy, though. Yeah, somebody tried to rip
More
him
than
off.
usual?
Yeah, more than usual. Somebody tried to rip him off too on one of the
Oh, I
apartments.
saw that in one of your episodes that he was trying to rent an apartment and they wanted to. That sounded like such a hoax, that whole
Yeah,
thing.
Reverend John Ducati, you didn't fool us. You didn't fool us, Reverend. You tried.
The
You
first
didn't.
thing, the, the first thing that alerted me in that story was their overcautiousness. You know, their
Oh, yeah.
overcautiousness.
Yeah.
It's like,
We want to
okay,
make sure
right
you're the
away.
right
Don't,
person. Yeah, it was a
why are you
little
so
over the top.
worried?
And you know what? It's
Setting up.
interesting that so many scams have come out, right?
Yes, there's a ton of scams here as well, and also whatever brand new coronavirus malware for your computer that you have to worry about as well now. And
Yeah. Well, I don't want to
danger.
alarm you, but one other story that's come out that I have been observing is, and you may have even heard this, New York City has bought 45 refrigerated truck trailers, each capable of holding as many as 44 bodies in case city morgues and hospitals become overwhelmed with the number of dead from the coronavirus. The city will have the capacity to hold as many as 3,600 bodies. So that's got to be a little bit alarming, no?
Yeah, that is alarming, and I think I think that's following in Italy's footsteps. If I'm not incorrect, that Italy also is having to come up with some creative morgue situations.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
that's super alarming, man.
it's like being in a hospital and the doctor goes out and they start whispering and chatting and somebody sends a priest over. You're like, whoa, hey guys, you know,
Yeah,
pulling up with
what are you hiding?
refrigerated trucks is it's not exactly going to calm the population down, eh?
No.
Yeah.
Have you seen the photographs of? Did you see the article I sent you of the hospitals in New York?
Oh yeah, yeah.
How
They're
bad they are?
crowded. Yeah,
Yes, and also just people wearing workers wearing garbage bags to protect themselves and like recycling their N95 masks nightly.
yeah. Well, I will tell you two good news stories. Okay, I'll give you two good news stories. There's this thing called hydroxychloroquine. It's actually a malaria. It's used for malaria. But
We
it's
read about that like a few weeks ago. It seemed promising.
yeah, it does seem very promising, and they're trying it in BC, and BC is actually doing pretty well with this. But they're trying it at the sort of the epicenter of where this started in BC. It's like an old folks home, and
Hmm.
in the United States they're testing it out on 1,100 people that have the COVID-19 as well. So I mean that's something that should be fairly cost effective and fairly easy to mass manufacture and move out so that a lot of people can get it fairly quickly, right?
Yeah, I think I heard that too. A couple tried to self or get what do you call it? Not diagnose, give that to themselves to cure themselves of COVID-19,
Oh
and they
yeah, they saw the ingredient. I think it was in a bottle of fish tank cleaner, and they saw that ingredient, so they drank it. But you know
oh
what?
my god.
Yeah, I know. I mean, anybody that's going to do that is probably not long for this world, anyways. I mean, that indicates a real flaw in the decision making process within them.
Yeah,
I mean, not only one person to say, "Hey, this is on the back of it. Let's try this," but then
it's just
his
great.
or her partner says, "Sure, let's do it," and they both die. Right? Like, sorry, man, I'm not going to mourn your death. If you're that much of an idiot, then you know what? Move on to greener pastures, my friend.
They must have been desperate.
Yeah, go to that big fish tank in the sky. And so I got one more story I wanted to share to you because I found it quite shocking. And, I don't want to be one of these guys that's constantly bashing on Trump or Trudeau for that matter, but I just see things and I just think, what the fuck are these guys thinking? So Trump's Department of Homeland Security starts to import 85,000 H-1B graduate gig workers. So this is going on right now, like in a situation where you guys have or are supposed to have all the borders closed, you're trying to contain this thing. The unemployment rate looks like it's going to hit 15 to 30%.
Hmm.
Um, the Department of Homeland Security feels the need to import 85,000 workers.
Where's he importing them from?
Uh, American Workers Coalition. They're going to be swamped with this.
It's just importing from other parts of the United States. I
Um,
mean, no, H-1B program. So,
yeah,
you know,
65,000 visas for graduates who are directly imported from India, China, and other countries, and so on and so on. Yeah, I thought
that seems
that's
ridiculous.
yeah, it does seem ridiculous, and it does seem. I mean, this is one thing that's it's really kind of upset me that there just seems to be this obsession, particularly in the U.S. with the GDP. You know what I mean? Like, for God's sakes, don't let the stock market fall. We can't have the GDP dropping 3 points in a quarter, right? I mean,
I think this administration in particular.
yeah, like, I mean, importing people at a time when you're doing everything you can to seal the borders and contain this thing that just seems really not only short-sighted, because I mean, this is probably going to lead to a secondary spike down the road, right?
Yeah, and also I don't understand this at all. Like, I mean, he's just complaining that the American worker doesn't have enough work and that we shouldn't be outsourcing to other countries. Why are you suddenly importing people into this country when there are lots of young, healthy people here?
Well, yeah, they're going to be looking for work. Like, I mean, this is
Yes.
just really, see, I think someone has taken advantage of this situation and they're looking at it as an opportunity to lay off a bunch of people that are draw higher salaries and then bring people in under lower salaries. I smell opportunism in this. I think that's what it,
Yeah, I mean, that totally sounds feasible. And that is the way business goes.
that
Oh,
is
that
the way
happened
it
to
goes.
me once. I got laid off of a job because they didn't want to have to pay me $35 whole an hour, which was already low. And then they got this guy who didn't even know how to design from another floor to take over my job, and they tried to pay him $12 an hour. Day 2, he fled. He never came back. He just ran.
Took his H-1B visa and ran down the street, eh?
Yes.
Hmm. Well, yeah, I'll share some laid off stories too. I've been kicked around a bit myself, but we'll save that for another video, right?
Yeah.
So, do you have any parting wet messages? You know, the channel's growing. We're getting lots of viewers. I've had this thing censored 3 times, if you can believe it.
I have some shout outs.
Good. Let's hear it.
Well, I'd like to shout out to my good friends Susan and Oliver, who are currently mailing me keys to their apartment in Manhattan, just in case I need to be completely alone in an apartment.
Yeah.
That's good. These desperate times, although right now it's fine here. And shout out to my friend Abigail Seligson in Philly, who has offered to lend me money if I happen to get in a dire straits, which I will not do, but thank you very much. I really appreciate that.
Well,
Those
that's
are my
good.
two shout outs for people who are like actively trying to help.
Well, yeah, I mean, I really think it's going to take a collective effort from all of us just to step up in terms of competency, support people. The problem in this situation that I see is the longer it goes on, the longer there's uncertainty and the longer that there's half measures, the harder and longer it's going to take to get things back on track.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to remain relaxed. My concern is, will I have a job uh, when this ends? And another concern of mine is, how is this going to change the way people work together for good? Because this could change the way we work together as a society.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think a lot of things are just gone. Like,
right?
I mean, a lot of bricks and mortar stores are never going to recover from this. I mean, they were under a lot of pressure from, things like Amazon and other online purchasing options to begin with. I think
Yeah.
that's gone for good now.
And yeah, another concern of mine is if I can't get my job back, and I mean, I can't possibly start a business fast enough that's going to generate enough income for me to support myself. That's not going to happen.
No.
Yeah, and where would I find a job now? And how are things going to change? So this is also up in the air. So
Yeah.
I think our finances with this country will be piecemeal bit by bit as they continue to extend bit by bit, and we'll see the fallout. But I honestly think that things are going to be completely different in another month from now, and maybe they'll plateau, but or start to subside. But I think that reinfection is quite possible, and more mutations of the disease are quite possible. And I think this is going to be happening for a long time.
Yeah. Well, my personal opinion is I would say take um, very direct and comprehensive measures for the next maybe even 3 weeks, 4 weeks, just to limit this as much as you absolutely can. And then following that, I would say the reinvigorating efforts need to be directed towards Main Street rather than Wall Street. Small
Yeah,
businesses, workers, stuff like that, right?
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Hopefully we've all learned lessons from the 2008 crash. I mean, that was, the big bailouts came and then nothing really changed, right?
Yeah. Oh, I have one more shout out.
Okay, let's hear it.
Shout out for my roommate, Octave's girlfriend, Lexi, because she's the one that's been ripped off so poorly from her god awful company, who, by the way, was trying to force them to work beyond the cap when all the other restaurants were closed. They ripped her off too. So they ripped her off, tried to make them all work.
Yeah, there's a lot of good people and a lot of shitty people. They really get exposed in situations like this, don't they?
Yeah.
All right. Do you have a shout out for anybody else?
Shout out to my brother.
Hey, and shout out to mom and that old gray-haired daddy of yours, right?
And that old gray-haired daddy of mine, and my mom, who is overly worried and telling me to just get rid of my cat and think about myself and run for the hills.
Eat your cat?
Get rid of my cat. She's like,
Oh,
don't worry about Sookie, save yourself. And I'm like, it's not that dire at this moment.
not yet, right?
Right.
All right. Well, let's close it off there then.
Okay.
This has been COVID Chronicles 21 with our special guest, friend of the show, Angela. And remember, if we are all together, nobody can stand against us. Right?
That's right. Power.